Yeah. I sort of got a love-hate relationship with Break Off because I don't understand why they got one of the worst parts of cooking, which would be baking, and building a show around it. It's like making like a travel show and just like featuring swamps or something like that, or a quarry.
I'd better add, I'm quite sure I'm not a great novelist.
Novel adventure.
I cannot put it in fiction form.
Novel adventure.
I don't think it's the novel I like best.
Novel adventure.
I see how its end is all right.
Novel adventure.
Generally speaking, I haven't written as much as I'd like to.
Novel adventure.
And of course I would have been glad to write more novels.
Well, that was a better start, wasn't it?
Start again.
Yeah, it was, mate. Yeah.
You throw me to the dogs.
What a dickhead. You should see my sound wave. Bloody hell. It's going through the roof. I didn't expect you to just stop. I thought you were going to keep going. Oh, God. Oh,
Well, it's so a question, funny. Isn't it? I could answer my own question, I guess.
Yeah, no, I guess not.
Hello, listener. You're listening to a novel adventure. We're here talking about books again. And we now have a banging theme tune. And this week, listener, we've got a few new features to offer you. Some very exciting stuff.
Very exciting.
Now, first, I don't know whether we're just naturally miserable gits or something, boys, but after 1984, we're plunging headlong into another bleak dystopia. Cormac McCarthy's The Road. How are you both?
I'm doing all right. I mean, last week you mentioned that the books are having no effect on me. Well, this week I've been actually a little bit dreary because I was quite chipper. What with the football news, I don't want to delve too much into that because it's a literary corner in sports and literature don't really go hand in hand. Part of want to buy Stephen Gerrard's autobiography, which is available now, by the way.
Got it in already.
I honestly think that you are promoting that. Are you like on their book?
Yeah, no, I get a $5 every time I mention it. I have been quite chipper, but I watched the film of this as a bit of homework for this last night, and it was so miserable.
It's nice to know you feel things, mate.
I've always felt things. I'm a man of very deep emotions, very complex man. Although I've got a tough exterior, I absolutely bruise like a peach on the inside, and this has actually affected me a wee bit. Not totally, because I'm not mental, but
well, we're looking forward to hearing about it all later.
Exactly.
Ollie, you've been moaning about your day quite a lot. Is there anything you'd like to get out of your system?
Well, yeah, today I am feeling like suitably nihilistic. Actually, my car when I was driving to work this morning was rear-ended, properly nudged my car.
Auto, my friend. Are you all right? Have you got whiplash or anything like that? Have you been to your GP or?
No, I mean I have really considered it because it seems like a good way to kind of get a few days off work.
Did she look like she had a lot of money?
It was a nicer car than mine.
Okay, well, you can get, like serious like damages for whiplash, and you can just sort of say you have it, from what I understand.
That works, but then when you record yourself saying that you're okay...
Oh, don't give it away, mate. All I've done is suggest it. You've not said you're going to do it.
There's no liability. Also admitted liability as well via the means of podcasting. So if EdXL do get hold of this and it goes viral... and
then, it's always EdXL.
Yeah, it's just a common theme, isn't it? That's the magic of podcastery. If they take a hold of this... And then
in their wing they've got an insurance division in Excel.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to podcasts, very popular podcasts. Ollie's screwed. There's no way out of it.
So no, that's right.
Best if you avoid.
So then I got to work and I thought, well, I'll read this week's book so that's fresh in my mind. Remembered what book it was that we were going to be focusing on.
It's a dreary number, mate. It's a dreary number.
Yeah, and added to that, it's now raining and cold, and I've got the heating on for the first time. So yeah,
What's that called, Josh? What's that literary technique?
Prophetic fallacy, my friend. I think you'll find that's called, isn't it?
Wait, Josh, what did you call it? Just
it's either prophetic or pathetic. I can't remember. I think it's prophetic.
No, it's pathetic. Although pathetic sounds as though it makes more sense.
You're so nearly right. So later on, we've got some exciting new features joining our second ever dictionary corner. And as ever, Josh and Ollie will be tackling proper heavyweight GCSE questions on the road. Although actually they're not GCSE questions, they're just sample essay questions because it's not a set text. So as we open the cover of this week's book, I'd like to ask you, Josh, if our first pod has changed your approach to reading in any way. Are you reading with a different hat on?
Yeah, well, definitely, because this was one that this is the book I've read most recently, and I knew that we were doing it for this podcast. So a few of the other books, I didn't know we were going to do the podcast until we actually utilised novels themselves for it. This one I knew it was going to happen. So I knew I'd be in this arena, this literature-based arena with you two.
And it is an arena.
Oh,
I've got my dressing gown on.
Exactly. So I knew it was going to be quite intense. I was sort of picking up little things here and there. And also with Cormac McCarthy, which we're going to get onto in a wee bit, his prose is a little bit not standard.
Unorthodox.
Unorthodox is a better way of saying
Great
it.
word.
That's the word I was after. So you have to be a little bit switched on. You can't be sort of falling asleep every now and then on the train. Then you need to be sort of switched on. And I knew
You can't read when you're asleep though. It's not like you can miss bits of the book. It's not like a film.
Yeah, I know. Obviously,
The book doesn't keep happening. You fall asleep.
No, just if you're feeling a little bit tired, you're not going to pick up stuff. You're not going to know what's going on.
Okay. Is there a sort of unseen fear of Ollie's sharp
Criticism, yeah. Sharp
biting?
I would say so, definitely. Yeah, I fear Ollie more than I ever have in my life, and I've always been a fan of Ollie. Always been a fan of his work, and now I fear him. So
Great improvements have been made all round.
Well, that's the dynamic we wanted to set up. Oh, okay. So we come to the road, come to the juncture before the road. Josh, and once again, your arbiter here. This isn't yet one Ollie has picked for you.
Yep.
Why is this book number 2 on your novel adventure?
But I think someone recommended it to me maybe a year ago now, and I thought, that sounds all right. I think they said the film with Aragorn in it. I thought that sounded good.
Yeah.
And I read the blurb, and I've heard it's got the Pulitzer Prize, I think, is what it's called or pronounced.
Well, it's very much it's a very modern book, but it's very much a modern classic. If we can use that phrase.
Yeah, it's sort of whereas 1984 was 70 years ago now. This was in 2009 or 2007, I think. So it sort of switches up the eras a wee bit, and we can compare and contrast. And I thought it'd be quite good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think at some point we're going to have to go past the 20th century and go back a little bit, but
there you go.
We're here now. We've got 2 dystopias. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Ollie, I'm going to ask you for a brief synopsis.
A man and a boy, who are both, as far as we are aware, nameless. They are in the text referred to as the boy and the man. And they are journeying across a post-apocalyptic America, or US rather. And we're not really sure why they live in a post-apocalyptic US. That we're not really given any firm sort of understanding of why that is the case, whether it's a nuclear war or global climate change or whatever. And they are journeying towards the sea. So already you've got that sort of mythic trope going on of, heading. It's sort of like an exodus. And they are sort of searching for food and are sort of presumably expecting things to be much better once they get to the sea. And hopefully they'll come into contact with other people. Although, again, the novel is very, very vague about, their intentions and motivations behind doing things. But in essence, that's what the book is about.
Okay. Nice. We now have another little feature for you, listener. Josh.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this, I can't even say it. Josh has found his favourite review on Amazon. He's gonna read it out, and then we're gonna discuss whether I think it's got any merit or not.
So here it goes. It's by S.P. Ramsey, and I think I'm not sure when it was, but it was. They started walking along the road again, turning into a fairly empty Waterstones. The boy tugged at the man's arm. Is this a good book? No. Why not? I don't know. Can I read it? No. Can we go home? There is no home. They sat on the floor outside and looked at the bleak, empty high street. Everyone was dead. They had all read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. They went to sleep and died. The dialogue was repetitive and banal. Punctuation was wrong, on purpose. Nothing happened. It killed them. I'm scared, the boy said. It's okay. Will we be okay? Yes. Are you sure? As long as we don't read The Road, we'll be fine.
Wow.
That's brilliant. Now, Ollie, try not to critique that, but what do you think that review's trying to tell us?
It's telling you that an idiot wrote that review.
No, I said try not to critique it.
He is an idiot,
We'll
isn't he?
critique it
SP
in
Ramsey
time.
is an idiot.
We'll critique it in time. But I hope we can refer back to that as we sort of delve into the book.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, SP Ramsey. Now, this book obviously works great for illiterates such as myself because they've made a film of it. They've put it on the telly. So, obviously, McCarthy's also had No Country for Old Men put on the big screen. What does it take for a film adaptation to really work?
Well, the whole there's always an argument of the book versus film thing. So if someone's a proper film buff or someone's a proper bookworm, they always go for, oh, the book's always better. And I get that.
That sounds a lot like Ollie.
That sounds a lot like the young boy in that very stunning.
You've only got a couple of
reviewer
voices.
just did. But I mean, that whole sort of thing pisses me off because I think everyone wants to support the book as well. You hardly get a person who always thinks the film's always, well, normally better or just as good as what the book tries to portray, because the book's more of a traditional format and people prefer to enjoy books a little bit more. Because I was watching it last night. Aragorn got his bum out twice, and I did not imagine Aragorn getting his chuff out twice when I was reading the book. So I was quite surprised at that, really. So that you didn't.
Sorry, what's that got to do with what you just said a minute ago?
I just didn't really. I didn't. When I was reading the book, I didn't imagine that I would see Aragorn with his chuff out twice. might I add. Whereas,
okay,
that
but
was
why does that mean people are rooting for the book?
Because it's more traditional, isn't it? And you can make up your own mind about what's going on in the book. You visualize it yourself in your mind's eye. I didn't think it was going to be Aragorn. So the film adaptation sort of skewed my view of it a little bit, because now whenever I'm going to revert back to thinking about The Road, if I'd have not watched the film, then I would have thought it was some fella that I'd made up in my mind's eye, but now I can't get sort of Aragorn's chuff out my head. So it sort of ruined it a wee bit for me.
So your main complaint,
and I saw his ball bag as well.
Your main complaint with the film is that you've had to see Aragorn's arse twice. And the book couldn't serve that up because it's only
words. Didn't
words.
say and Aragorn got his chuff out. Is all I'm saying. I think I made a good point apart from that, but
it's poetic license, I think.
It's not a poetic license, is it? It's fucking Aragorn's arsehole.
All right, we'll move on. Obviously, McCarthy's quite renowned for his distinctive use or lack of use of punctuation. I've got a few little quotes here from an interview he gave. A rare interview he gave with the one and only Oprah Winfrey, in which he said he prefers simple declarative sentences and that he uses capital letters, periods, an occasional comma, a colon for setting off a list, but never semicolons. He does not use quotation marks for dialogue and believes there is no reason to blot the page up with weird little marks. Now, Josh, I imagine this was quite a new thing for you.
Yeah. I thought that. Well, I read No Country for Old Men earlier on in the year. That was very similar, and I thought, I'm sure there's a reason as to why he's done this, and I'm sure Ollie will come onto it very sort of shortly. But I thought, I don't know why he thinks he could be all bloody high and mighty and not use it makes the dialogue hard to grasp. You don't know who the man or the boy is talking to, and I think it's absolute bollocks. And I think he should sort of go over it. And I don't know why he thinks he's the king of grammar.
Above the laws of grammar.
Above the grammar law, yeah, exactly.
Would you care to enlighten him a bit, Ollie? Why is McCarthy justified in his choice?
Josh brings up a good point. It can be a little bit of a challenge for the reader, but I think it's similar to when you're reading Shakespeare as opposed to watching Shakespeare. You pick up on certain speech patterns, and you're able to attribute unattributed dialogue to the correct source or character. I think in order to sort of achieve or fulfill the ideas that he wants to, it's essential for McCarthy to have a very, I will use the word simple, but not simplistic writing style. I think that a lot of it goes on beneath in the same way that Hemingway does. A lot of it comes through implication, and that implication relies on very basic sentences, which they actually belie a sophistication. They're actually very difficult to write if anyone ever tried to do it.
Are there any other authors, Ollie, you think might be able to convert Josh, who are unorthodox in their use of grammar?
I think a very obscure but writer that I'm on a sort of silent crusade, well, not so silent, very blatant crusade to have more people read, is a writer called William Gaddis, who, like James Joyce, uses M dashes, so sort of just straight lines when he uses dialogue. And again, he never specifies who it is that's speaking, but it relies on the reader sort of getting caught up in the rhythms of the various characters and sort of being able to intuit for themselves who it is that's speaking. And I think that's a really, really interesting way of writing.
Okay.
I feel that although Josh finds that it can sort of confuse the reader, I actually find it more disruptive when you're reading to have, regular breaks where it says he said, she
Sure.
replied.
Yes,
Doesn't
I know
necessarily
what
that.
you mean. I know what you mean. Actually,
Yeah,
it
no.
disrupts the flow of
That's
the
a good point.
speech a little bit. All right, Josh. So are you converted? Are you happy to explore some?
Well, I'm
Gaddis?
not fully converted because I've read 2 Cormac McCarthy books and Ollie's just talked to me for about 30 seconds. So that's not really sort of, it doesn't weight in the same way.
No, but I
see
mean,
his point.
are you
No, I
willing
see
to?
his
Are you
point.
willing to try out some
I
William
think I've
Gaddis?
gone out of this conversation with more of an open mind than my very close
Okay.
small pea mind that I did at the start, of course, yeah.
Well, that's.
But I
very
knew
nice
Ollie
to
was
hear.
going to be able to provoke a bit of a reaction, which is why we're doing this.
That's a novel adventure.
Tune in next week for Stephen Gerrard's autobiography.
So, listener, we're going to stop for a short break, and then we will be back with some exam questions and our second ever dictionary corner.
Novel. Adventure.
Okay, listener, we now come to some exam questions, which I should say as a disclaimer aren't official exam questions. They're very much unofficial.
Yeah, where are they from, then?
I have
Obviously,
no
it's too
idea.
new, I suppose.
I don't think books this recent ever make it onto the syllabus, sadly. But some very kind souls have written some sample exam questions. Okay, question number 1. McCarthy borrows from a lot of genres in The Road: post-apocalyptic stories, horror, Southern Gothic, the road novel, sci-fi, and even the Western. Can you identify elements of these genres in The Road? Do you think the influence of these genres helps or hinders the novel? Does McCarthy's book transcend genre? Why or why not?
Well, that's a very, very long question.
It is, isn't it? I apologise
I
for
was
that.
confused at
alright.
the middle part where it said, do you think the influence of these genres helps or hinders the novel? How can
Well,
you
I
write
guess
a novel without genres?
Well, no, I guess the point is that if there's so many genres, there's so many different dramatic techniques flying about, it's a bit messy.
Okay. Well, I don't know what half the genres are, so go through them again, sorry?
Why don't we, when we go through them, give examples?
Yeah,
that
Okay,
might be
that's a
useful.
very good
Okay.
idea, actually. Post-apocalyptic stories.
Okay, well, it's sort of dystopia, isn't it? So that's the whole sort of setting. There's like ash everywhere, there's flaming trees are falling down for no apparent reason, without explanation.
your dystopia.
I know my dystopia,
You're
I've read
becoming
2
something
books
of an
on it.
expert in it.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Middle name's dystopia. I mean, there's post-apocalyptic stuff everywhere. There's sort of like cannibals with like balaclavas on, looking menacing with shotguns and stuff like that. So that's prominent.
Horror.
Horror. There's gore everywhere. There is gore everywhere. There's like blood spatters in the snow. There's that little baby on the spit, but they chose to exclude that actually in the film because it's probably. I
Would've
think the
got
film
an
was only
18.
a 15.
I think it would have got an 18 if they showed
Imagine
that.
if they had showed that. That would be absolutely awful, wouldn't it?
Southern Gothic. Ollie, I feel like you might have to take that one.
All right, hillbillies and
it's-
stuff. Next question. Next genre.
Hillbillies with black hair.
Unfortunately, the hills have eyes doesn't quite qualify as Southern Gothic. It's very much a genre that's as the second part betrays. It's a very much a take on the Gothic, but very distinctly Southern ideas. There's a lot of religion in Southern Gothic. Thinking of writers like Flannery O'Connor, William
Okay.
Faulkner to an extent.
Black magic and that sort of thing.
It's more to do with like imbuing European Gothicism or Gothic with sort of Southern religion.
Okay.
So
Okay.
not necessarily Presbyterianism, but a strain of Puritanism, which comes across very thick in The Road.
I'm thinking season 2 of True Blood.
I think season 2 of True Blood probably would be considered Southern Gothic by a lot of scholars.
Sorry, that was cheap. The Road novel, which I didn't even realise was a genre. I thought it was a typo.
It must be a typo. What does it mean?
The road novel, as I understand it, Jack Kerouac's On the Road is obviously the most obvious example to use. It's the idea of travel, of, in, say, for instance, a novel like Lolita. Humbert Humbert takes Lolita on a road trip, and it means that the writer has a way of engaging various parts of America.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Sci-fi.
I was confused at this because I wasn't sure how that was how that influenced the book at all. Because there were no sort of aliens or alien happenings. I mean, trees did fall down by themselves, which could be aliens, but they didn't make that explicit in the prose. So I sort of overlooked that one and assumed that was a typo too. Actually, half the genres I thought were typos.
Well, you're not in a good place to answer the question, then, are you?
I gave up on this one.
All right, Ollie, can you see elements of sci-fi in this novel?
I think that people who refer to sci-fi with this novel is a bit of a stretch. I'm inclined to agree with Josh. It's not obviously. I mean, I could be wrong. There may be something that's staring out at me that I'm completely ignoring. But as far as I'm aware, I think people, because it's post-apocalyptic, because it's speculative, it's therefore science fiction. Which
it suits the agenda of the question somewhat.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. EdXL wouldn't have put sci-fi
they'd
in.
never endorse this rubbish or the Western.
Okay, last but not least, we have Western.
I don't know what that means. I have no idea. Is that like the Western...
What do you mean you don't know what a Western is?
Is it Western culture? Is it like globalization? Is
Western,
it? I don't know.
Josh.
Is it
What's a Western?
like a cowboy?
Who's the most famous man? Yeah, there we go, Josh.
Even the Western. It doesn't say that's the Wild West. It's not the Western, is it?
That's a Western.
No, it's called
a
a
Clint
Western.
Eastwood movie
It's a Western.
Is probably a Western.
All right. Well, okay. Well, they've got a pistol. They got a revolver. That's a weapon of choice in the Western.
You've seen Westerns before, mate.
Yeah, I've seen Westerns before. I'll see Westerns again. There's no horses or anything like that. There's no... Yep, revolver's all I've got, mate.
I think we've trampled over this question enough. Let's move on. When his father dies, the boy repeats his name over and over. Oh, that sounds awful. As readers, we have no idea what the name is. At the same time, McCarthy describes the setting of the novel in painstaking detail. What is the importance of naming and description in the novel? What does McCarthy name and what does he leave unnamed? How do these choices affect the novel?
By not naming it, you make it more universal. It's obviously not particular to a certain type of person or a certain time.
Yeah.
And often when he's describing things in the novel, such as the surroundings or the locations, they're sort of described as being secular and godless. So he's creating this kind of world in which, it possesses an actual philosophical significance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense to give. I mean, Josh would probably have it that the boy was called Jim. Everyone that he uses in examples is called Jim.
Little Aragorn.
But by naming him Jim, we narrow down.
They call the man Aragorn.
Yeah.
Always gets his chuff out for no reason. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Our last question for the day from our mock exam paper that's not really an exam paper. Do the characters in the novel find any meaning in their lives? Philosophical.
I mean, I think this novel is it's kind of like are you familiar with the idea of like natural revelation?
Yeah.
No.
I knew immediately Josh was lying.
1-0.
Was at least telling the truth.
What? Where'd you get that from?
Because Jack has like a sincerity to his voice, and yours was just so clipped.
Sorry if I'm chipper, man.
Yeah, he took a sip as well as he said it, so you wouldn't be able to sort of quiz him further.
Well, it's like
tactical sip.
It's basically the idea that like we come to believing in God or being aware of his existence through the beauty and splendor of the world, and how pretty and everything looks. But the road purposefully means that that's not possible. These two characters can't sort of connect with God or believe in him because they don't see any beauty around them. All they see is kind of destruction. And so the idea of the natural revelation idea is all to do with coming to God through nature, and through the beauty of nature you come to realize that there must be a creator, just like a beautiful painting suggests a talented painter, a beautiful world suggests a very benevolent creator. And I think that the characters in the road find meaning in each other and the need to persevere purely to sort of provide for the other, whether that's in a sort of emotional way or a practical way. That's where they find meaning. And I think we should avoid calling this an existential novel, because I don't think that it is. I don't think it's like trying to tell people how to make meaning out of their lives and their existence. But yeah, I'd say they find meaning. Yeah, I don't think that you need a nice world with the promise of Fallout 4 to have meaning to life. Like I do.
Great. That's the end of our questions for this pod. And I think I know the answer to this, Josh. But would you recommend the book to our listeners?
I think so. I think if you're going through a deep depression, definitely avoid it, because I think it will only make shit worse.
It'll tip you over the edge. So you don't think there's any sort of hope in it? You don't think it says there are any sort of nice messages about humanity?
In parts, yeah,
embedded in
definitely.
there?
No, not of humanity, because there's like it's only really Aragorn and the sort of wee Rugrat that are the good guys, even they're murdering men left, right, and centre. But at the end, when the father sort of drifted off and death claimed him, I was a little bit horrible, and I sort of fear for what sort of happened to the boy afterwards, because he got taken by Guy Pearce off into a very suspect-looking family. It might have been Guy Pearce in the story when Cormac was writing it, but Guy Pearce was the one that turned up on the beach. So I fear for his life. He's probably dead now.
Okay. All right then. We just now come to this week's Dictionary Corner. Thank you for your thoughts on The Road, boys.
No problem at all. Pleasure.
Otherwise.
Last time around, Ollie taught Josh a new word, first in what may be a thesaurus for Josh.
Yeah, sure
and
did.
This time, Josh has brought along a word.
I have,
For Ollie.
I have.
You
I
ready?
also should point out to anyone listening at this point, we do actually record this podcast over Skype, and I would like to have it known that both Jack and Josh, can see that I have got my hands free here.
Yeah, your hands free.
I have no help. I'm not going to be
There's no
googling this
dictionary.
word. And
This is genuine. This is as
genuine.
genuine
Real
as
life.
quizzes get. Okay,
go ahead, Josh.
All right,
Josh,
the
your word,
this week,
please.
The word is dverga.
Sorry?
You have purposefully looked for, and you can't even pronounce yourself.
Yeah, no, can't.
Can you just say that again, please?
Yep, the word this week is dverga.
Dverga.
Yep.
Could you spell that for us?
Yep, it's DVERGR.
Okay.
Dverga.
Can I have its origin, please?
Not really, because I haven't got that written down in my notepad. But it's a noun, and I can put it into a sentence if you want.
If you could, yeah.
Oh, Jim, look over there. It's a dverga. Hit me.
I'm sure people say that to Jim all the time.
I was not this cruel to him last week. A diverger.
I've got to try hard though, because your vocab's very extensive, so I'm going to put in a little compliment here as well, and hopefully you won't be able to get it. Do you want to have a guess? Do you want to know what you think it is?
I don't know the rules of Dictionary Corner.
Josh, can you give us a situation in which you might use the word?
Sure. Say you're in a mythical mountainous region. And
it's like
you
a
might be
real
pottering
thing.
about, there might be a diverger in front of you, and you're like, "Oh my god, Jim, look at that diverger! That's so weird."
Jim's seen a lot of divergers in his
No,
life.
he's only seen one. That's the same diverger. That same scenario.
Okay. I'll tell you what. Yes or no questions.
Okay.
Yes or no questions, and I'm allowed 5 of them.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay, 5. Does a diverger exist in the quote-unquote real world that
No.
me and you occupy?
No.
Fuck me, then it's a bullshit word that doesn't mean anything.
It's in dictionary, mate.
Okay.
Dictionary corner, isn't
He's
it?
so proud of himself. He's so proud of himself. He's been in a dictionary and he's
see the
found a
video, I'm
word
so
that you
smart.
won't know.
Okay. Did you ask someone for the most difficult, unrealistic word they know of?
No.
To give me this one.
No.
Bollocks. There's no way you made it to D in the dictionary.
Oh, he's
Read the
resorting to
dictionary.
insults because he
I'm not
doesn't
gonna
know
go
what a
every week. I'm
diverger
not
is.
going to go. Oh, Jack will go. Oh, what's your dictionary corner this week? I'm going to go. Well, this week it's aardvark. Next week it's abracadabra. It's obviously not going to happen.
Okay. Does this word feature, to your knowledge, in either the Lord of the Rings series, the Game of Thrones series, or the Harry Potter series?
Could potentially. It's not a million miles away. It doesn't, but it's more Lord of the Rings, I'd say.
More Lord of the Rings. Okay. Do you know what? I'm going to take a fucking wild guess.
Go on. We'll see how close
Because
you are.
I've never There's no way I can make an educated guess about this.
Okay.
Is the Diverger a distant relative of the orc?
No.
Good question.
Oh,
Do you know what it is?
What's it? I do
A
want to know.
questions up.
Dvergr is a dwarf supposed to dwell in rocks and hills and is skillful when working with metals. Dverger.
Oh, I wasn't far off.
You weren't
'cause if
far
I'd
off,
said
mate.
distant-
You said it was a breed
if-
of mythical creature, so
I think if I'd only asked if it was a distant relative of dwarf,
you would
I
have
would've
been spot on the money, mate. You'd have been spot on the money.
Oh,
Unlucky.
Oh.
That's Dictionary Corner.
Ollie, can you see yourself using this word in everyday life?
you know what? I think I'm going to be like that person who uses or hears someone use a word of with sort of numerous syllables, and I think I'm gonna drop it in conversation a few times over the coming week. See if anyone
I think
brings
like
me
one
up
of those
on it.
things. Do you ever get those things where you hear a word or you hear of a tale, and then it occurs to you more often in the future? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think
It happens all the time to me. I think there must be a word for that situation, but you're going to see.
Is it
maybe if you go
is
to
it
Manchester
deja
Region,
vu?
You might see Divergers everywhere. Look, Diverger.
I think you're right. I think I'm gonna at the pub this week. I'm gonna be saying, you guys seen any good movies lately? Any featuring some Divergers? That sort of thing.
Or
Just
Coming
like
up.
27 hours,
surreptitiously
there's some
slips it in.
Divergs in the background.
Yeah. I know. I appreciate that, Josh, and that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Josh, for Diverger.
No problem.
Hopefully, we've all learned something. All that's left is for us to decide on next week's pod, boys.
Yeah. Do you want to do? Well, we got Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, are we gonna do
Fancy that?
Catcher?
Yeah. Well, didn't we say that on
We
the
did,
first one?
and then
that
we
were
let
gonna
the
do
listeners
Catcher in
down.
the
We're
Rye?
actually going to do it this time.
Exactly. So we'll just delay it one episode. It's like a bit of a build up. They can have the road in between. This can be the road to Catching the Rye.
Very nice.
So yeah,
Fantastic.
excited
Well, I'm in
for it,
danger. I'm in
'cause I'm pretty
danger of ending this pod in exactly the same way we ended the first one. So I can't
Sure
say
thing.
next time we've got Catcher in the Rye. I need someone else.
Don't know what we've got left, mate.
Would
That's
you say
about
we've
it.
got nothing left?
We've got nothing left. Nothing left.